Welcome. Welcome, everyone. All right. If you can hear me and see me, please let me know in the chat. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me and see me. Thank you. We're going to get started, I think, just about 30 seconds here. As we're getting ready to get started, we'd love to know where are you joining us from? Let us know in the chat where you're joining us from. Detroit. Um, I visit Livonia often, so I love that area. Boston, Spain, Nigeria, Germany, California, San Diego. Hello. I'm near DC. So hello from DC. Cyprus. Yep. India. Wow. We got a lot of people from across the world joining. That's exciting. South Georgia, Indonesia. Awesome. Super excited to have you. Should we give everyone another 30 or so seconds and then we'll get started? Looks like they're still kind of filtering in. Kansas. All right. Well, we are live streaming this as well. So why don't we get started? And then this will be recorded. So if you joining late, you're going to hear me speak, but this is going to be available for everyone to reference later. We are super excited for everyone to join us today to talk about what I think is a very important topic and something that a lot of you probably struggle with and devote a lot of time to, and that is creating not just assessments in general for your courses, but engaging in effective assessments. Give me a hand up emoji if you do you think you've devoted a lot of time that you would like to save towards building out effective and engaging assessments for your courses. Give me a hand up if that's you. Mark, yes, Ray, Amber. Yeah, a lot of us, I think that's true, especially again, thinking about how we tweak what questions to ask, how do we make sure it's effective and getting to the point of what we're trying to get across with our courses. That's why today we're excited to talk about how to create those assessments and make them story based, but leverage the exciting technology that is available through AI. And so, my name is Brandon. If you don't know me, I am the co-founder of an organization called EDU Fellowship. We are partnering today with Learn Worlds, who is an expert on this topic about story-based assessments and AI. So excited for them to be running this. We have two really big names that are going to be talking through these slides. But before I introduce them, we want to make this interactive and we want to make sure that we're answering your questions. So at any time during this, feel free to post your questions in the QA, in the chat. We want to make sure that you're getting as much value out of this. And if you have to drop out early, no worries. We will record this. And I believe we're going to send out the recording in an email if you have registered. So if you want to reference this as later on, feel free to with that link. So with that, let's go over to introductions. I mentioned my name. I'm Brandon. I'm the co-founder of EDU Fellowship. We help learning and development professionals and course creators level up in their career. I have Panos on with us, who is the CEO and co-founder of Learn Worlds, exciting, and Panagiotta, who is an instructional technology specialist with Learn Worlds. So two experts to lead us through this conversation, answer your questions, and make this hopefully helpful for you as you go back and start building out your assessments or tweaking and improving them. So with that, I'm going to hand it off and talk about actually real quick the agenda today. Just like I mentioned, it's going to be about storytelling and AI. But this is really to leave you with a solid framework to use as you build out your assessments, a solid 12-step framework. So it's not lofty ideas of what it takes to build assessments. It's a very practical step-by-step guide, or this webinar seeks to be very practical, step-by-step instructions for you. So we're hoping that you can leave with very concrete steps you can take to implement right away. So with that, I'll hand it over.
Great. Thanks, Brandon, for hosting us on your community. I'm super excited to be here, folks. My name is Panos. I'm the co-founder and CEO of LearnWorlds. LearnWorlds, for those of you who don't know us, is an e-learning platform, and our reason of existing, our raison d'etre, is to be the support for all the hundreds of thousands of creators, entrepreneurs, and companies who need to future-proof their knowledge business. So LearnWorlds is an all-in-one e-learning platform where everybody can find all the tools they need to successfully create, share, and sell online courses, whether it's to customers, internal employees, partners, associates, and anything else that you can imagine. We are all about this packaging and distributing knowledge. So whether you're moving your business from on-site to online, whether you need to train a remote team, we have not just the tools, but also the expertise that goes with it. And this is also part of our mission to share this knowledge, be in touch with communities of practitioners who from day to day, they actively implement everything that we are creating in the platform and we are preaching. And we know that today, in today's fast-pacing environment, you don't just need the best e-learning platform out there. You need a platform that will stay at the edge of the development and the R&D, and will be ahead of your needs, will anticipate your needs and cover all your needs. And this is what we're here for. I'm extremely excited about today's topic. I know that for some people this sounds crazy, but computer-assisted assessment was the topic of my PhD, and I'm extremely excited about the content that Panayota has prepared for you, because I really enjoyed it, and I really feel passionate about that. And hopefully, after today's presentation, you will get some very practical things with you, things that will improve your day-to-day lives. Assessment doesn't need to be boring. It's the opposite of boring, and this is what we're here to share, what we have learned, and we are super keen to also take your feedback and get it back into the platform and go out there and create the next iteration of the platform and our framework in order to make everybody's lives even easier when it comes to instructional design and education. So let's proceed, I guess, Panayota, with the juicy part of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Panos. Welcome, everyone. So I'd like to kick off this presentation by sharing some personal experience. Back in the days when I was a student, I think you will feel the same. I used to find assessments like the most boring part of instruction. So most of the times we had multiple choice question or open-ended question in a paper sheet, later on in computer, but the format was always the same. It never changed. Later on, as I became an instructional designer, I had this question all the time in my mind: how can I make assessments captivating for my learners so that I can engage them in the process? So I would like to start with this question. Please feel free to use the chat and share your ideas and your perceptions. What makes an assessment engaging for your end? Please use the chat. Let's then have a short reflection upon your ideas. Immediate feedback, Andrea mentioned. Okay, cool. I see what she says. I have this idea as well. Users have to think through the questions. It's not black or white. Yes, from Manasi. Relevance to them, of course. We have to make the questions relevant. Okay.
And just to add here, Panayota, as we receive some more answers, that assessment, sadly, it's not just boring or uninspiring. It can also be terrifying for many, many people. So it can be a traumatic experience. So this is what we're here. We're here to demystify assessments, to show the other face, the other side of assessments, how they can be engaging and in a narrative driven way, be be connected with the rest of education. So this is what today's talk is about.
Yes, totally agree with you, Panos, and thank you for sharing your ideas. I think you grabbed most of the factors that makes an assessment engaging for the learners. So I would like just to showcase a few ideas that we had. Of course, the top of the list is story-based assessments. We are here for this idea tonight. I didn't see, maybe someone wrote it, but I didn't see it. Of course, we can use multimedia like video or audios or other clips and images maybe. You mentioned about real-world scenarios or relevance to the questions. So yes, that makes also the list. We can add some gamification options, maybe points or certificates, or even connect with some awards. Some interactive aspects in our assessments, like questions that allow the user to interact further with the assessment. Of course, something that we usually forget about is to allow the learners to make a choice during the assessment. And we will elaborate a bit on it later, and you will understand what we mean about. The first thing you mentioned was provide immediate feedback. Yes, that's also very essential for the learners. And we can also add collaboration. In some cases, collaboration and relatedness with other learners makes assessments more engaging. We mentioned relevance, and last but not least, we have included this idea of balancing challenges and skill level of the learners. So I think we will elaborate on them, and hopefully afterwards you can leverage on these ideas and up level your assessments. So as we move on, I would like to make a clarification at this point. So we perceive assessments in a way that's let's use an analogy to understand what we mean by assessments and storytelling. So in a story, there are at least three major aspects. We have the narrator, we have the reader of the story, and of course we have the plot, which is the king. And imagine in this analogy that as a narrator, it's the instructors who are designing the assessments. Then you have your learners who can be perceived as the readers, as those who take part in the story. And then of course we have also the assessment itself, which is the plot of our story. So in LearnWorlds, we provide all these kind of tools that you need in order to make your assessment feel more like story-based. And we would like now to start presenting this framework we have prepared for you with 12 steps.
Sorry,
yes?
Before you continue with the framework, just to emphasize here that the human mind is built around narratives and storytelling. So it's not just, this is the way we grow up, this is the way we learn. Storytelling is something that begins from a very young age, and it's the framework of our mind. We think in stories, we dream in stories, and also we learn in stories. So this is also why and this is the reason of existence of this framework, that by introducing the narrative, the narration element into the assessment, and more so as Panagiotis will show us further down, we combine it with the narration of the teaching itself. This is how we create a whole cohesive story. So assessment is not just an isolated incident that happens at some point at the end of the course. The storytelling itself makes assessment a meaningful part. This is what the 12-step framework of Panagiotis talks about. Back to you.
Okay. So let's give you this short overview of the framework of this 12 steps framework. So I would just like to point out that it's more or less like a roadmap you can use, and we can sort it out in 3 layers. The first layer includes steps 1 to 4, where we will see how we can develop our content in order to give our assessment the shape, the look. Then we have steps 5 to 9, which is the main aspect of our assessment. you will see here that actually theory meets practice more or less. And in the last three steps of the framework, we emphasize more in fine-tuning this assessment and ensuring that we acknowledge and we recognize our learners' efforts. So let's get started with the first 4 steps over here and jumping directly to step 1. So here I would like to mention that step 1 is all about creating the scenery. So you have to pick up your canvas, you have to choose the colors for your painting. So you are in an online setting, you are preparing an online assessment, and you can consider tweaking the background colors, the text colors, the button designs, even the feeling and the look of the progress bar might make sense for the story. But I would like you to consider this. Imagine you having an assessment, an online assessment, where you are bombarded with all the questions directly. Boom, you start with the assessment and you have all the questions there. So what would be your feeling? I think we would most likely feel a bit frustrated and anxious of what's there for us. But what we are here to offer and suggest to you is to change this navigation mode into a card-based navigation system. In that sense, it's like you're having the book and you're opening up page by page and start reading the book, and the story unfolds itself. So this is a way to create this narration with the learners. And what would be also essential here is to choose an option that this card-based navigation mode auto navigates. If you have this, like in LearnWorlds, we do offer this feature. The assessment as you go through auto navigates. So this creates this immersive experience of storytelling. I mean, you answer a question and then you are directed to the next question without having the need to do anything else. So this is crucial. But yeah.
Sorry, Panagiotis, this is one of the well-known complaints that we receive from various users of various LMSs, learning management systems, that a lackluster authoring environment for assessment, where students are faced with an endless list of questions or multiple questions, and they have to scroll down. That doesn't let people focus on one individual question. They have to, on top of their own cognitive load, the effort that they put in to answer a question, they also have to find their way through the navigation. They see they face the dread of the endless list that has to go down. So here we're talking about something that, as you mentioned, it's immersive, lets people focus. They only have one item in front of them, and this is the thing that they have to focus on. And the moment they click, they just go on to the next question, and they're presented with this sequence of questions that also, as you mentioned, can build up a story. So it's all about them. It's all about giving to them the easiest scenario and the best affordances to just focus on the task at hand, and not to have to grapple with a UI.
Yeah, sure. So the key takeaway here is to create a clean and minimal design for the story and the narrative to shine. So keep that in mind for your next preparation of an assessment. And let's move on to step 2. So in step 2, what we are suggesting is that you have to build the connection with your learners. You have to introduce them to the story. So instead of starting and jumping directly to presenting the questions, what we say here is just take a step back and present a welcome message to them. Show them that you appreciate their effort, that the preparation that they have done. And to do that, you can use some story blocks or a different screen to provide maybe a welcoming video for your learners and welcome them in this assessment experience. And you can inform them what they have to do later on during the assessment. You can even pay them a compliment, make them feel that this is an engaging experience, a memorable experience for them. So at this point, I think it's the first use we can think of for AI. So I'm jumping directly to an example of how we can leverage here AI. And you can see that we can use it in order to craft the story. So in the first slide, in the welcoming slide, you can open up with a short introduction that immerses your learners in the story. So in this example here, which is going to be the same example throughout the presentation to help you follow up the story, we are speaking about assessing C-level executives and their time management skills. So you can see that the prompt that we got here, and we focus on the first part of the prompt, it gives us a really immersive and vivid introduction that welcomes the users. They pay also, it provides a compliment to them, and it opens up this story of the Odyssey of time, and lets them relate also with the story. Also, we can think of a different approach to this step here, where you might choose something more direct, but you can use here AI in order to write you a script for a video where you are just the instructor and you're going in with all these tips that you provided to you, and you're just welcoming the learners with all these like opening phrases and warm welcome. You can see here at the output, it provides you some ideas about the opening shot that you could have for your video, then some lines for you to speak up during this video. And yeah, I think it's pretty impressive, and it actually makes you feel like you're joining this story, and it's a warm welcome for this story that will unravel.
And when you have the help like you're showing here with a prompt that you can just copy paste and adapt to your own situation, it's super easy to set up something like that. So instead of having people jump straight into the questions, you set the stage. You welcome them, you explain, you make the intro, and it's not difficult for you to record even a separate video for every time, because here with this AI prompt you can get the help. So I saw a question in the chat about how this could be relevant for higher education. I think for any kind of content, you have to adapt this obviously to your own situation, to the kind of audience you have, to the kind of subject matter you have. But a welcome is a welcome. Setting up the stage for the and getting people ready for the assessment, it's something that's applicable everywhere, and everywhere will feel its effect. Like they will start on a positive note, the assessment that follows.
I think if I may add to this one, Panos, I have already done it in a class I had in the university as an instructor, and I actually uploaded a welcoming video to my students for our platform that we use at the university. And actually, before even we start the courses, and it gave them this really welcoming feeling, and I really received some positive comments from them later on. So I think, yeah, it's pretty nice and easy to use.
I'm sure that I think that even us now, let's say from the other side of the instructional designer or the tutor, we still perceive assessment as a trip to the dentist. It's something that people don't expect. They don't have any expectations of it being pleasant. They just want it to get over with. We can do it better. These are some simple techniques that Panagiotis shows here, and you don't have to spend too much time, because again, AI can help you do the heavy lifting, and you can start on a positive note. And imagine, obviously, that's even more important when you have to train employees who are like busy people, when you have to sell also your courses. So the people need to have a very happy experience at the end of the course. So these are all the little things that add up to that great learner experience at the end of the day.
Yeah. So let's take you a bit further in our story, in our dialogue. In step 3 of our framework, we suggest that you design authentic questions. So the first and maybe the most important part here is to provide relevant questions. You also mentioned it earlier in our brainstorming session, that relevance is really important. Give real life based questions so that your learners can apply their knowledge in situations that will make sense for them. So this is really critical. And of course, take into account not to provide very challenging questions, because that sometimes might discourage the learners. So you have to also balance things a bit. And here, what is a bit of a game changer, if I may say, is that instead of giving the assessment questions in the screen just for the reader to read, you can also use here video or audio. And in this way, the learner gets the feeling that you have invested time, that you appreciate this effort that they will do, that they will make during this assessment. So it gives a very nice feeling for them. And it of course makes them feel that they are immersed in this story that you are starting up. So I would like now to show you an example once again, a prompt. We are still with the C-level executives, and we are assessing their time management skills. So you can use here AI to generate the questions that you will integrate in your assessment. So this is like super easy for you. We provide this prompt. You could have various types of questions. You can ask AI to give you multiple choice questions or scenario-based questions. So you can see here in the output that we asked for 3 multiple choice questions and some real-world scenario questions. And you can see that the outputs are actually pretty useful, and they might need some little tweaks here and there, but it's ready for you to use and integrate directly in your assessments quickly and easily, actually. And
these scenarios here can be extremely effective. I think we all found ourselves when designing a course in the dreadful situation to have to create 100 multiple choice questions, and we face a blank page. Here, the productivity gains for you can be immense just by adapting the prompts that Panagiotis shares.
And of course, what is very important here is that you can give AI the material, the content. So you can upload the PDFs, and you can personalize the questions to what you want actually to assess. So this is pretty useful and easy to use, actually. And in the case that you are choosing to give this narration through a video, you can once again ask ChatGPT to provide you the script for the questions per se. So I'm moving a bit fast here to get some minutes for us to discuss the fourth step of the framework, which is how we can diversify the formats of the questions to actually enhance learners' interaction. So far, we have set the scenery, we have welcomed the users, and we used a different way to present the assessment questions with some video maybe, or audio, or other type of formats. And here, in step 4, what we suggest is to immerse your learners even further in the story. So what is critical here is to provide them option. In the learners audience, usually you might have people with learning disabilities or people who are not so well, they're not doing so well in writing. So why don't you give them an option to provide their answers with another way? Instead of writing, typing, and submitting their answers, ask them to upload the video or an audio-based answer. In that way, those who are having any type of difficulties, they will actually manage to overcome them and shine during the assessment, which is really, really important for them and also for you, because you can see that they have actually made better than you might have expected. So this is also a way to differentiate your instruction and the assessment, actually, the type of the assessments you provide. So choose different type of questions, provide interactive questions if you can, maybe some ordering type of questions or matching type of questions. But in any case, avoid giving the same type of questions every time, because it will end up to something that you or the learners might have already experienced, and that it's actually boring for them because it's quite common and something that they see around a lot. Okay. So
And
now,
just to add, Panayota, that it's not only about the two parameters that you mentioned that are extremely important, potential disabilities and inclusion, and making sure that everybody has the chance to respond. It's also about catering to the different learning styles. Others are visual learners, others prefer textual information. It's also about the kind of courses you're doing, because you might have a remote workforce, you might have people who are not sitting in front of a laptop, but they're probably frontline workers, or they are on the run, and they can just respond by using their mobile phone, and they can just submit an answer. So these are the multimedia ways, also multiple representations with different media of the same kind of content that caters to all your different learners and to all the different learning needs that you may have. It's extremely important also for variability and giving all these options.
definitely, I totally agree with you, Panos.
So let's go quickly through these questions from the audience.
Okay, so yeah.
Yep.
I think
So Nora, good.
I think these are the things that Panayota already mentioned. What we just mentioned about the different learning types, the different audio, the different content types, whether it's video, it's audio, textual information, combining all these, or providing alternative representations even for the same question. This is what can help us with diverse needs. So I think even the next question is probably by Roselle. Is treated like that. So these options cover both.
Yeah.
Panayota?
Yeah, I think I don't have anything else to include. Just keep in mind to provide options to your learner that boost their feeling of autonomy. And also, if they do well in the assessment, this boosts their competence as well. So more or less, we have 2 out of 3 basic psychological needs satisfied, which leads to motivated learners. So yeah, I think this is very essential. And the next question is about sacrificing fun element during assessment. I think so far, Panos, if you agree, we have given some tips so that you can spice up your assessments, and of course avoid making them boring and
I would say
irrelevant.
on the contrary, fun should be a big part of that, and people learn by being confronted with something that is unexpected. This is something that can really grab their attention and something that can create memorable moments. Obviously, you don't want to overdo it. From time to time, you can try to do that as well. But this is something that you can introduce. So your narrative can be fun, it can be interesting, it can be mysterious, it can be a crime that needs to be solved. You can incorporate that based on the subject matter and obviously the audience that you have in front of you. You can include all these elements in your storytelling and in your assessment.
Okay,
Great.
So
I think I can continue from here. Panayota so far set the stage. She showed us the welcome. She showed us also about how we can set the stage of the assessment itself and how we can use the different types of media to set up the assessment. So here, let's go into the more practical, I guess, stuff, the actual implementation of the assessment. So in step number 5, we're talking about going beyond the ordinary and preparing a transformative feedback strategy, how we can provide detailed feedback. So here, feedback is probably the most overrated, but also the most important part of the assessment experience. This is where the actual learning is taking place, not the moment you fail, but the moment somebody comes back to you and explains why you failed, or explains what else was missing, or how you can connect this with your past experience, or with the things that you will learn next. So, but also the feedback needs to be rich, needs to be informative, needs to be connected with the event that just happened, which is the assessment. So here we're not talking about a screen that will show you a grade, whether it's a passing grade or a failing grade. We're not showing something that will show a thumbs up or a thumbs down and leave you hanging. Here we're talking about enhanced feedback that will be also connected with the narrative, and that will provide you the answers why you were wrong, or even when you were right, what else could be added to your answer, or how your answer could be further justified, or how it could be further elaborated. So this is the most important part. And this is also, I guess, the part that makes assessments boring, because if you lack that, people, also students, lose the connection with the value of assessment, why this just happened. The purpose of the assessment is not to fail you, or to pass you, or to give you a grade. The purpose of the assessment should be to help you learn. And the moment you start treating assessments like that, with the intention of providing the feedback, this is the moment that actual learning takes place, and learners are extremely good at identifying when assessment can be helpful to them. So here we're also talking about giving to students the possibility to reflect on the feedback, and even to respond on that feedback, creating a dialogue, a discussion on the feedback itself. So assessment is not just the unidirectional aspect of the teacher assessing the student, but you can also use this opportunity to make assessment into a meaningful learning conversation and interaction with your instructor, or with your subject matter. And here we can also be creative and practical, because we can incorporate video feedback, which can be easier in some cases to produce if you do it fast, and you do it via just recording a video on your mobile phone. And also, obviously, it can add a personal touch. It can help you create this connection with your students. So it can be so much better than a passive piece of text that seems quite dry. So with video feedback, you can offer some very specific and very constructive insights, and you can strengthen this connection between the learner and the instructor. And here's where, again, AI can come to your assistance, and Panagiotis will show how we do it within LearnWorlds with an AI assistant that creates actually the feedback for you. So it can create quick and personalized feedback. Obviously, the productivity gains can be huge, because okay, if you have a classroom of 20 students, then perhaps you may be able to give them personalized feedback. But if you have an audience to train of 200 people or 500 employees, how do you do that? It's impossible. It used to be impossible. Now it can be possible with the help of AI. So let's Panagiotis show us how we have in LearnWorlds, we have reimagined feedback with the help of AI.
Okay, so here we can see the outline of a course in LearnWorlds platform. So let's move forward a bit. We go back to the review center. Imagine that our learners have already submitted their answers. So here we have one learner who have already finished the questionnaire or the exam or whatever. So we open up the answer. We can see that the answer, we can see the question actually that the learner provided their answer. Here is also their answer, and here is the space where we can choose either to use AI or to provide our feedback. And of course, we can, let's move a bit here. We can choose the AI. And we can identify various parameters here when we prepare our prompt actually in the feedback generator of LearnWorlds. So we get the answer, we get to decide whether the feedback will be some kind of reinforcement for our learners. We have the opportunity to provide specific type of feedback, whether it will be concise, whether it will be more extensive, whatever we like. We can also include some, here you can see that you can adjust the level of strictness, because let's face it, positive psychology is creating a movement right now. So be supportive, be encouraging to your learners. You can adjust also the tone of the feedback, and you can see afterwards here it's the generated response. At the first part, it provides the direct feedback to the answer that the learner provided, and you can choose to insert the content or improve the original prompt, maybe expand or shorten it. And even if you don't like it, you can try to regenerate the prompt, the result. So yeah, I think it's pretty easy. Even if you have, imagine the case, like Panos said, to have 1,000 or even more people answering your questions in the assessment. So yeah, let me just move on from here and back
somebody
to
would say that
Panos.
okay, somebody perhaps could do that with a ChatGPT on the side, but here we have incorporated all the prompt engineering. We have done all the prompt engineering, and you just choose a few options, as Panayota showed, to get exactly what you need in terms of the feedback. So again, the productivity gains can be amazing. So I guess we can continue with the next step, which is how to build the plot and to continue the plot, not just within one assessment, but also between assessments and across your entire course, so that every every assessment event doesn't appear as disconnected from the rest, but it's continuing a story. It's another step for the students as they continue through the story. And I guess one of the common problems with assessments, and the reason why they're boring, is that people do always the same thing. We stick to because it's safe and because perhaps we have some content ready, we just stick to a couple of questions, whether it's true, false, or multiple choice. Not even the choices of the multiple choice answers are usually very creative. So it's just the same thing, all of the above, none of the above, and nothing else. So things can pretty much quickly turn out to be very, very boring. So this is also little things that we suggest here, how you can play around with the types of content that you have, and you can add some nice snippets and some nice nuggets of interactivity and of narration within your assessment. So perhaps you can start your assessment with a personal video where you address your students and you want to introduce yourself to your students, and then you present a questionnaire where the students need to present themselves back to you. So this can help you connect with your students on a deeper level. Obviously, you don't have to do it every time. You can start with that at the beginning, and this can be the basis of forming a connection with your students. And as the course progresses and you go deeper into the assessments, again, you have to get unstuck from the typical multiple choice true false, and you can start adding in different types of questions like informal quizzes and self-assessments. Self-assessments are not there to give you a grade. They are there for students to grade themselves how much they learned and how much they progressed. So they're also less stressful to users. And they provide to them and also to you insights about how good they learned the material, how they proceed with the course. So this is, I guess, also in order to create a culture of assessment that values the journey and not just the instance and the score that people would get, all the outcomes. It's about using all the types of assessment we have, both summative assessment, and summative assessment is the one at the end that gives you the grade, but also the formative assessments, the ones that happen throughout the learning, and they help the student to measure themselves where they are in terms of what it has been taught to them and how they can adapt and adjust to the journey forward. What are the things that they need to repeat? What things they need to do better? Where they need to invest their time? This is how assessment becomes a scaffold to help the users and reach their end goal. This is why we have to use all these little nuggets, these little unpredictable, interesting variant types of assessment in order to take the anxiety factor away, and help people be engaged and unafraid of this learning experience. So if we combine this with the feedback, we are already getting somewhere. We have people that are engaged. They go into the assessment with a positive mind, and we learn from their assessment. Not only they learn where they are in comparison with the course, but also we learn better how to help them achieve their objectives at the end. And this can always be connected with the plot that we have in mind, the overarching plot, where we treat also this instance as part of the overall story of the hero that is traveling towards the end, which is the objective at the end of the course.
Panos, if I may add also something here, it's also important through this a culture of assessment. If we build such a culture with our learners, it's also important to cultivate this mindset that making mistakes is not something that we are going to be ashamed of. It's through mistakes that we learn. So you have to reinforce this and work around with this, and not give all the time assessments with grades to the learners, because that creates external motive for them. So they go there only for the grade, and they don't appreciate the whole experience. So this is really crucial as well.
Yes, I totally agree. So this is the next step is also very much connected to what you just said, Panayota, which is the self-reflection part of learning. Learning doesn't happen to us. It's not something that comes in from the outside. It's an internal thing. We have to learn, and self-reflection is the process that fulfills this. So self-reflection is the moment where we actually stand and see what happened in the previous instances or in the previous event. So here we can introduce some very smart type of activities like diaries or journals, which again are not formal summative assessments. They're not there to be graded. They're not there to be viewed even by the instructor. But this is where we put in the student, the trainee, in a self-reflection mode, where he has to stand in front of a questionnaire or in front of a white sheet of paper and write what has happened, what has he learned at that point, where he has to think, see inside himself, and put himself also, I guess, in the shoes of the protagonist of this movie, of this story, and ask himself about what he learned so far, or what is his current state, so that he can move to the next state. Nobody is looking at these results. He will not be graded. He will not be. These things will not be shared. But he is making an instance, an assessment of where he is right now, and this can be about a cognitive subject, something that he has learned, or it can also be about his emotions, his state of mind, where he is in respect with the subject matter that he is learning. So it can be a diary or a journal. This can be a great tool. This is obviously something that we have also included within LearnWorld. It doesn't necessarily have to be in written form. It can also be in the form of a video, somebody taking a video journal and recording that. And then this will make huge sense after a month or after 2 months, or after when you come back and see the difference, where you have been and where you are at the end of this process of learning, of discovery, of evolution. And again, here we can connect even this very, I would say, esoteric, no cognitive process. We can connect it with AI and do it in a very productive and smart way. So here, in fact, we're asking AI to help us generate journal prompts to use in our course. So here on the left, you can see a prompt that are asking us for the same course we have about the time management for C-level executives to create 20 self-reflections diary prompts. And on the right-hand side, you will see some very interesting examples about, for example, decision-making impact. Consider a recent critical decision you made. What were its short-term and long-term impacts on your team and organization? So very easily, without us having to even know in detail the subject matter, if it so happens, we can just get this some self-reflection and diary questions. We can put them in front of the students and ask them to engage with this kind of questions. On the next step for us, it's the actual measurement. It's where we have to actually score the question. And here again, in order for this to be useful, a simple pass-fail is not enough, or just a numerical scale that tells you that you are at 60%. These are very unidimensional. They don't provide the kind of feedback and nuance that users expect and deserve for the effort they put in the course. So here we have to establish clear and precise scoring criteria, and this is something that you also need and have to communicate. You also have to be transparent about that to your students, so that they know the measure or the stick against which they are measured, and their effort is it's judged. So here we can also provide rubrics and detailed guides that offer a clear framework for each performance level, and gives also to the students the actual roadmap for what they have to do in order to succeed in this course. So this, by having a clear scoring system, this makes expectations very clear. This reduces learners' anxiety. Here we're talking about transparency. This is not a random scoring that people get. We're talking about fairness and transparency, and all these things enhance students and trainees' belief in the value of the assessment, and how this assessment process helps them to achieve their goal. And again, here we can easily combine the theory of this with the practice of having AI to help us create these detailed scoring approaches, and even the rubrics that we're going to use, and the things that we will share with our students. So here, in this case, we are asking our AI to create a clear scoring criteria in order to assess the time management skills of the C-level executives. And just to remind you that since we're already building a full course, and we probably have already set up from the beginning the objectives for the course, what is the expected performance and the expected outcome at the end of the course, it's obviously extremely easy to use the same approach and the same objectives to connect this with the assessment. So here, for example, we get a very nice criteria about priority setting and strategic focus that is a factor of 25% towards the overall goal. We're having delegation and empowerment that contributes 20%, and we have meeting management, which contributes 15%. And if you read all the bullets, I don't want to get you now through the text, it saves some time, but these are the precise criteria that you would use. And obviously you can use AI to help you mark based on these precise criteria. So the full framework can be there for you.
So we also have an example, if I may step in, Panos, to catch a breath. So we have also here an example of a rubric provided, and you can see here that for each skill that we originally defined that we want to measure for time management, we have clear indicators, and we have also 3 levels that we can assess our learners against the score. And of course, what's really interesting here is that AI also provided us the idea how we can use this rubric and how we can actually interpret the results, which is really crucial, and it really saves us time. Rubrics is really difficult to generate because you have to cross-check every aspect all the time, and usually it's really difficult also to score. So you might, if you don't have a clear idea about the scoring and the criteria, it might get really, really difficult for you. But in this way, it really becomes easier because you have the whole system described. You can also get examples. If we could see the whole prompt, you would see that it also provided an example of scoring the answer here, or you can ask as a next step in your discussion with the AI to get such an example.
Great. So the step 9 is a bit more technical, but extremely important, especially when it comes to the UI. You need a reliable platform and you need a reliable system. People have put in so much time after all what we've been through. We have set up the narration for them. We have set up the stage. They did the work. They spent so much time in giving their answers. Imagine having, you know, the disaster of a failed submission of a questionnaire. That's something that we have seen too many times, and this is why it's extremely important to have an extremely reliable system that backs up every response the moment it's given, that can immediately get users to recover their questionnaires and to continue from where they had been. So that's something that obviously at LearnWorlds we've made sure by supporting assessments with thousands of users submitting hundreds of questions. That's something that we've learned very, very well, how to minimize the frustrations and how to make sure that we have a glitch-free system for all these kinds of assessment. So I guess we can proceed with a couple more questions from the audience quite quickly.
Okay, yeah. So Hala here mentioned that how do you ensure fairness when designing an assessment? And I think that we already provided a clear idea of having this scoring criteria set and even using the rubric. Of course, you have to keep in mind to share in advance the criteria with the learners so that they are aware of them. And maybe you can beforehand check once again that they know what against they're going to be assessed. So this is really important, and rubrics are really a clear way to assess your learners. We also have here another question. How do you design innovative, fun, and engaging assessment outside the outdated multiple choice and true-false questions? I think we have already answered this one. I mean, we have provided so many options with video or audios are as type of answers for the users. And yeah, I think.
And I guess there is nothing better than actually seeing the different types of questions. So if you haven't done so already, you can just go in and start a free trial with LearnWorlds. No credit cards required, no strings attached, and just head over directly to the assessment part of the platform and play around with types of questions that you will see there. So it's extremely interesting, and you won't feel obligated, or you won't have again to just go back to the boring multiple choice and true false questions, which can be great if they're done properly, but we know how difficult it can be to create proper great multiple choice and true false questions. So this is where we give you all the multimedia tools to add video, to add interactivity, to add images to your different kinds of questions. So a trial will convince you.
Okay, so let's wrap a bit the framework. So we are back in step 10 to 12. So here it's all about fine-tuning the assessment and recognizing learners' efforts. So more or less we are at the final steps of this journey. In step 10, so far you have created this conversation with the learners, this dialogue. They have uploaded their ideas, their answers. You have provided feedback to them. Maybe they have also answered back to this feedback. So you have this conversation going on. So you have learned your learners. Why don't take advantage of this? Segment the user so that you can further personalize then the learning experience. So you can use tags, and in that way you can differentiate your next steps in the course. So you can, based on the answers that the users provide during the assessment, you can identify who needs further support. So you can send them via an email different suggestions for courses that you might offer. And in the case that you see that learners have actually succeeded in the assessment, maybe you can offer some exclusive content that takes them a step further during this learning experience. So yeah, the key takeaway here is that you can qualify the users, take advantage of the knowledge that you have gained during this conversation and personalize further this learning experience. Yeah, step 11 is my favorite, my personal favorite during this journey. So you have to reward your learners. We are talking about storytelling as a conversation that we have with our learners, and who doesn't love happy endings in stories, right? So why don't you acknowledge the effort that the learners invested during this process by providing them this certificate that acknowledges the work that they have done so far. Maybe you can also create an inspirational outro video just to accompany this certificate, or maybe a personalized video feedback with the certificate as an extra idea that you can use. Of course, if you are a course creator or you are interested to match the certificate also with your brand, this is also essential, because you build this sense and this feeling of trust with the learners, because the whole thing it's matched to your brand. And yeah, I think what's really essential here is to avoid just awarding the certificate to everyone. Make it feel that it's actually essential to try. And yeah, I think that's really important here. And to wrap up this whole step framework with our final step, it's an idea more or less for sustainability. So here we provide some smart, sustainable strategies. You can reuse and repurpose the content. With reusing, we actually mean that you can deploy the same assessments in new settings, maybe with some minimal changes. But in any case, this will allow you, for instance, to keep a consistency and even develop some benchmarks across the assessments if you like. And there is also the idea of repurposing, of course, the materials that you have developed. And to do that, you can actually adapt the material to different contexts and new audiences that you might teach or instruct later on. So we also provide some key strategies to do so. For instance, you can convert paper exams to digital material, so that you can leverage every resource that you already have to avoid any additional logistics later on. Of course, you can create question banks. This is also something that we offer in LearnWorlds. We recognize that it's really crucial to have a deposit of questions to use and create a collection of story. And this also goes hand in hand with smart tagging. So you can group also your questions in order to be easier to identify them and repurpose them for another assessment. And of course, keep in mind that in some cases you might need to adapt the questions and the assessments to different cultural contexts. So you might also need to make some modifications to your stories and the conversation that you develop with the learners. And finally, this is actually an interesting idea. We usually avoid disciplinarity and cross-disciplinarity. So you might use a type of assessment in one field and apply it to another. And this spices up a bit the learning experience. But always, I think you have to keep in mind, before engaging in such efforts to reuse and repurpose, to actually examine whether this effort that you will invest actually pays off, because sometimes building something from scratch might be actually easier, but you have always to balance things out. So yeah, I think that's all
Thanks
regarding this.
Thanks, Panayota. It's also great to mention reusability and obviously balance that. As we mentioned, we showed so many cases where with the use of AI, it's so easy to create, repurpose everything that we want to make and adapt it. So in some cases, you can just start from scratch or feed your existing content and just make it more appropriate for the new case. What was the purpose of today's presentation and today's framework presented by Panayota is to help you make assessment not the worst and the most dreadful and boring part of your course, but probably the most exciting. And this is where all these little tips and tricks and the overarching plot of a narrative can help you do precisely that. As we mentioned, all of these things can probably be created in with all kinds of platforms, but the good thing is that we've done all the heavy lifting to include all the technology that supports this framework within the LearnWorlds platform. So without taking up more of your time, we just invite you to head over to LearnWorlds, start a free trial over there. And we also have here in association with Brandon, a nice little discount to help you take advantage if you're ready, or if you just want to play with the platform and start with your next course or with your first course. Head over there to the assessment engine of the platform and see how you can implement all these things, how you can use the different types of questions, how you can use AI right away, either to create questions or to create feedback for your questions, and to take advantage of all the little steps that we've shown here. We'll send you obviously the presentation and the recording of today's presentation. So next time you're out there worried about creating your next assessment or being bored yourself about the possibility of having to create 50 multiple choice questions, just remember what you've seen today and try to spice it up. Try to use all these tips and tricks to make an assessment that is really worth the investment and the time that your students put in, and that would really be a memorable learning opportunity and affordance, and not just something that students will dread. This is what we're all about, and this is what the platform is about, and about us here sharing our knowledge and helping you create the best possible content for your students and your trainees and your organizations.
Yeah.
So I think, Brandon, I'm not sure if you have any last questions or last comments for our audience here.
No, I think I just want to say thanks again for everyone for joining. We always like to run events like this with LearnWorld, so expect more. If you are in our LinkedIn group, expect more announcements for future events on not just AI in general, but anything related to making your courses as amazing as possible for your learners and helping you grow your business. We appreciate you taking 60 minutes out of your time, and we will see you at the next event.
Thank you, everyone.
Brandon, for hosting us. Thanks, Panayota, for the help.
Bye,
everyone.
Panos. Thanks, Brandon.